The first letter is Alef. The matching letters are similar to the English vowels. It is the nikud that determines the sound of the syllable. Alef can sound like the following syllables: A, E, I, O, and U. Let's look at the words on the screen. They all start with Aleph, but if you look at the transliteration, you will see that the Aleph matches a different English letter in each word. Ata, Eretz, Iti, Ochel, Uma. Let me highlight the letter Aleph and the matching English letter so you see it clearly. All the Hebrew words start with Aleph decorated by a different nikud sign. That changes the sound, and by that it also changes the matching English letter in the transliteration. In some cases, the letter Aleph can be silent. If you want to know more about that, you can find more information in another lesson. Link in the description. That may have been a little too much to understand for the first Hebrew letter. Aleph is special in this way. Don't worry though, things become much easier in the next letters, as you are about to see. The second letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Bet. Matching letters are B or V, depending on the dagesh. I will show you both versions. A word example for the first version is bait. Bait. This is the dagesh. In this example, it makes bet create the sound of ba. Ba. Dagesh is a nikud sign and will be discussed in the nikud course. Now, bet without dagesh. It makes the sound of va. In the example word, lavan. Lavan. In short, bet with a dagesh sounds like the English B, and without a dagesh like the English V. Normally you will see Hebrew text without nikud. That doesn't mean that the bet in a certain word is definitely without a dagesh. The sound of bet in nikudless reading is something you learn how to read with experience. The next letter is Gimel. The matching letter is G. A word example is Gamal. Gamal. The letter has a special sound when decorated with Geresh. G as in George or J as in John. The fourth letter is Dalet. It matches the English letter D. A word example is the Hebrew name David. David. The next letter is He. The matching letter is H. A word example is Hatzlacha. Hatzlacha. Notice the last He in the word on the screen. You don't hear it as a consonant. In this case, the letter He is a mother of reading. Find more about mothers of reading in the description of this course. Next, we have the letter Vav. Matching letters are V and in some cases W. A word example is Vered. Vered. The letter Vav has several roles in the Hebrew language. You can find more information about them in the description below. Next, we have the letter Zayin. The matching letter is Z. A word example is Zeret. Zeret. The letter Zayin with Geresh creates the sound of Ja, as in Jacques, or Jean. Let's continue with the letter Chet. There is no equivalent sound in the modern English consonants. There are equivalents of sorts in other languages like Arabic, maybe German, Dutch, Spanish, and more. A word example is חבר. חבר. If you find it hard to pronounce chet, you can pronounce he instead, like so. חבר. חבר. It is not perfect, but it will be easier for you and for others to understand you in a conversation. The letter tet matches the English letter T. The sound of tet is similar to the sound of the Hebrew tav. I will show you tav later in this course. A word example is tiyul. Tiyul. Moving on to the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, the letter Yod. The letter matches the sound of the English Y, and it is also represented as I in some transliterations. A word example is Yom. Yom. The letter Kaf has a final form, and that is the first final form we see today. There will be 4 more, a total of 5 letters with final forms you need to memorize. Similar to the letter Bet we discussed, a dagesh changes the sound of the consonant. When Kaf is decorated with dagesh, it sounds like K, Q, or C. Without a dagesh, it sounds like Chet. For example, Karich. Karich. The first Kaf has dagesh in it and sounds like K, K, while the last Kaf has no dagesh in it, which is also the final form by the way, and sounds like Chet. Don't get confused, the last Kaf has no dagesh in it. In this specific case, the dots in it are a different nikud sign called shva. To quickly memorize Kaf, the letter has a final form and also 2 sounds. One with dagesh and one without dagesh. The first one is similar to the English K. The second one is similar to the Hebrew Chet. The letter Lamed matches the English letter L. For example, Laila. Laila. Next is the letter Mem. The English matching letter is M. Mem has a final form. For example, Madhim. Madhim. You can see on the screen both versions of the letter. Next is the letter Nun, also with a final form. It matches the letter N. For example, Nachon. Nachon. You can see both versions of the letters at the beginning and at the end of the word. Next is the letter Samekh. The letter matches the English letter S or a soft C. A word example is Sapa. Sapa. Next is the letter Ayin. Similar to Chet, this letter has no matching consonantal sound representation in the English alphabet. A word example is Ayin. Ayin. Exactly like the letter's name. If you find this consonant hard to pronounce, you can pronounce Alef instead, like so. Ayin. Ayin. It is not technically the correct pronunciation, but today the correct pronunciation of the letter Ayin is gradually disappearing anyway in exchange for the sound of Alef. So you won't be the only one doing that. Next, we have P. P matches the letter P. P can also come without a dagesh, and then it sounds like an F or the combination of P and H. In the word on the screen, you can see the letter with the gesh and also the final letter without the gesh. You can hear the sound of both letters. Poof. Poof. Here is a summary of the letter, shapes, and sounds in a table. I remind you to ask questions if something is not 100% clear to you. Tsadi is the last letter with the final form. It matches the sound of tsa as in tsunami or tsa as in quartz. Look at the example on the screen. Tziyutz. Tziyutz. You can see both letters at the beginning and at the end of the word. A special use case is Tsadi with geresh. It sounds like cha, as in child, chess, etc. Next, we have the letter kuf. Kuf matches the English K, Q, or C, as in cold. A word example is café. Café. Now the letter Resh. It matches the English R, though the consonant sound is a little different. A word example is Rosh. Rosh. The letter before the last is Shin. There are two ways to pronounce the letter. When the dot is on the right, it sounds like sh. For example, Shalom. Shalom. When the dot is on the left, it sounds like the English letter S. For example, Smicha. Smicha. When you read Hebrew without nikud, the correct pronunciation is determined by experience. Here is a summary of the letter. The last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and also for our course, is Tav. Similar to Tet, Tav matches the English letter T. A word example is Toda. Toda. I mentioned that the letter Tet has a similar sound as Tav. This is true to modern Hebrew. In the past, the letters had different sounds. By now, we have covered all the Hebrew letters. Let's move on to word practice to make sure we remember all the consonant sounds. It is important that you try reading yourself. I will highlight important points along the way. Feel free to stop the video at any moment to ask a question or to read at your pace. Hayom. Hayom. Chalom. Chalom. Kise. Kise. Look at the first letter. It is a kaf with the gesh. It sounds like the English K. Beseder. Beseder. Notice the letter bet is with the gesh, therefore sounds like a B, rather than a V. Ken. Ken. Lo. Lo. Shachor. Shachor. Look at the letter Shin. Notice the dot on the right. מפתח. מפתח. ציפור. ציפור. The first letter is Tsadi. It sounds like the combination of T and S. בבקשה. בבקשה. In this word, you can see both versions of the letter bet, with and without dagesh. Shabbat, Shabbat. Shalom, Shalom. The Hebrew alphabet is only the beginning. You can continue with Nikud or expand your vocabulary. This brings us to the end of this Hebrew course. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching.